So if medication can help address a lot of those symptoms, what then is the role of physical therapy for someone with Parkinson's disease?
All right, great question. So we know from the literature, from the research that's been done in this area, that people with Parkinson's disease that exercise experience gains and improvements in everyday function. Things like walking and standing up from a chair and just general mobility can improve with physical therapy or with an emphasis on exercise. And that can manifest in greater ability to participate in everyday life, to travel, to continue with social activities that people are interested in doing, to continue with housework and yard work and those kinds of things. So in general, we know that people with Parkinson's do better when they exercise. There is some evidence in some of the animal studies that suggest a potential neuroprotective effect of exercise, in that maybe exercise helps to slow down the progression of the disease. But that is in no way definitive, and we don't have a good way to test that in people because we don't have a good way to measure the progression of the disease. But what we do know is that exercise improves daily function, it improves walking ability, it improves people's fitness levels, people's strength and flexibility, and that leads to an overall enhanced quality of life.
If the basic takeaway from that is that someone who has Parkinson's disease should immediately begin an exercise program, for somebody who is either younger or just has less significant side effects, what would their exercise plan be like compared to somebody who might have more significant side effects?
Right. So let me address that question in two parts. One is that people with Parkinson's don't tend to actually seek out physical therapy or aren't necessarily referred to physical therapy until the middle and later stages of the disease when they start to experience more problems, more balance problems or more falling, etc. But what we really want and encourage is for people to come to a physical therapist early in the course of the disease. Although we can make a big difference in the middle and later stages, we can also make a big difference in the early stages. And in the early stages, we can take a more prevention approach and try to prevent the onset of some of the problems that we know emerge. So early on, we want to try to enhance that person's resources. We want to make sure they're as fit as possible and as active as possible, and that they're doing the exercises that are necessary to try to prevent the onset of disability. So, for example, someone that was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease would benefit from a pretty intensive cardiovascular training program in which we make sure that they're training at a level that is going to stimulate an improvement in fitness so that they're working hard enough. And this can be in many forms. It can be walking very briskly. For others, it can be riding a stationary bike, for example. It doesn't have to be any one thing, but what the important piece is that people are working hard enough to actually get a fitness effect or a training effect in their cardiovascular system. And we know that people with Parkinson's can do this. They're capable of doing it, and we see a benefit from this. We also know that people with Parkinson's disease benefit from a strengthening program. So early on, we would have people with Parkinson's disease training with weights, and this would be progressing over time so that we would progressively continue to challenge that person with the amount of weights that they're lifting or moving, for example. And there are specific muscles that we target in people with Parkinson's disease because there are certain muscles that seem to be more affected by the disease. So this is where physical therapists can help tailor those exercises to specifically meet the needs of people with Parkinson's disease. We also know that it's important to stretch, so a flexibility program to improve muscle length and joint mobility. This helps overcome some of the issues with stiffness and helps people maintain their mobility such that they can move easier.